The Naira fell by 4.58% at the official foreign exchange market, despite an increase of 21% in dollar liquidity over the week. You know how we do it, so over the next half hour, we'll be looking beyond the business headlines by bringing you in-depth perspectives on what's happening in the business world. First, we'll take a look at 2024 budget. We'll proceed to contributory pension scheme. After that, we'll take a look at financial blueprint. Of course, we'll also take a look at foreign exchange. These and more comes to you right after the break. Stay with us. Well, hello and welcome to Business This Week Today. My name is Chinwe Nwokocha. We begin today's news with the 2024 budget and how the federal government has proposed to spend the sum of 23.085 billion naira on rehabilitation and repairs of airport and air navigational equipment in the 2024 fiscal year. Specifically, 20.985 billion was budgeted for the rehabilitation and repairs of airport, while 2.100 billion naira was for the rehabilitation of air navigational equipment. The figure, which is part of the federal government's executive proposal in the 2024 appropriation bill, also earmarked over 63.31 billion naira for the parent Ministry of Aviation and Aerospace Development. While the ministry gets 39.80 billion naira, the Nigerian Meteorological gets 13.199 billion naira. The Nigerian College of Aviation Technology, Zaria, got about 3.500 billion naira, and the Nigerian Safety Investigation Bureau received 4.800 billion naira. Furthermore, other details of the allocation reveals that the ministry and its agencies will be spending over 1.3 billion naira, 1.39 billion naira on refreshments and meals, including welfare packages, sport activities, amongst other listed items. Well, still on our 2024 budget, the federal government has proposed to rake in 298.486 billion naira for privatization of government assets in 2024. The revised 2024 to 2026 medium-term fiscal expenditure framework shows that privatization proceeds for the 2024 fiscal year represent an increase of 44.8% against 206.182 billion naira in 2023. Now commenting on planned privatization of government assets, Professor Uche Owaleke, President Association of Capital Market Academics of Nigeria, said it is advisable for government to privatize its assets through the stock exchange. In that way, it would be more transparent and beneficial for all Nigerians. Meanwhile, speaking during the 2023 conference of the Capital Market Correspondents Association of Nigeria conference, Owaleke said that financing of the National Development Plan through the capital market will depend to a large extent on breaking the barriers of its development, pointing out that efforts to meet the current challenges of the Nigerian capital market will inevitably set the stage for it to play a prominent role in not only achieving the growth targets set in the country's NDP, but also the dream of a $1 trillion economy within the next 6 years. And let's take a look at contributory pension scheme and how the pension fund administrators have recorded 3.98 trillion naira profit from investing contributions made by workers into their retirement savings account under the contributory pension scheme. That's according to a new report. Now, the report obtained from the Pension Fund Operators Association of Nigeria revealed that the total funds under the CPS stood at 17.37 trillion as of the end of second quarter of 2023, while contributions made by the workers from both private and public sectors stood at 9.37 trillion naira in the period under review. The report, titled "At the Dawn of 20 Years of Pension Reform, What Are the Gains?" and released by the Chief Executive Officer, PenUp, Mr. Oguchi Aguda, shows that workers' contributions accounted for 54%, while the return on investment accounted for 46% of the entire pension funds as of the end of June 2023, from the beginning of the CPS in 2004. Further figures showed that as at the end of the third quarter of 2023, the PFAs had recovered about 24.8 billion naira from defaulting officers. Now, moving on financial blueprint, the federal government is planning to rehabilitate and construct about 1,925 roads and highways across the country in the 2024 budget proposal. The government also allocated 544 billion naira for roads construction in 2024, with the East and West and Benin Akure roads getting 2 billion naira and 3.75 billion naira respectively. Now, this is, however, separate from the 288.44 billion naira allocated for the modernization of 229 roads and bridges in the 2023 supplementary budget. The road projects to be executed under the Ministry of Works also indicated the provision of 1.05 billion naira for the removal of overgrown vegetation on some federal roads. Analysis of the 2024 budget, known as a Budget of Renewed Hope, showed that the ministry allocated about 3.19 billion naira for the purchase of 50 motor vehicles. And moving on, there are indications that foreign airlines may be planning to exit Nigeria's airspace soon at the backdrop of the worsening operating environment. This is coming amid several exits of foreign businesses from the country this year. Now, the latest being Procter & Gamble of United States, which announced their decision to pull out last week, barely months after another multinational corporation known as GlaxoSmithKline took a similar step. The key challenge here, according to the airline operators, remains the inability to raise the foreign currency required for their operations, as over $792 million of the funds are still trapped in Nigeria, a development that is currently threatening to their operations globally. The development has already seen the UAE's flag carrier, Emirates Airlines, which exited the country's airspace last year, still refusing to come back despite intervention from President Tinubu. And Naira fell by 4.58% at the official foreign exchange market, despite an increase of 21.10% in dollar liquidity over the week. After trading yesterday, $1 was quoted at 904, weaker than 865 quoted on Tuesday at the Nigerian Autonomous Foreign Exchange Market. Data from the FMDQ has shown. The daily foreign exchange market turnover, which reflects the volume of dollar transacted at the official market, increased by 21.10% to $120.89 million on Wednesday from $99.09 million recorded on Tuesday. Willing buyers and willing sellers quoted dollars at high as 1,186 naira and as low bid rate as 720 naira as a spot rate. Well, it's time for a short break, and when we return, the program continues. Do stay with us.
In this 21st century where all the information we need is now in the palm of our hands. News from around the world, entertainment, celebrity gossip, sports, and much more. The only thing that you need is the right source. Viewer TV is now on the go. Simply check us out on our social media pages on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, and Twitter for all the information you need.
Welcome back, and it's glad to know that you're still here with us on Viewer Television. Now, moving on, let's take a look at Naira shortage and how bank customers' agony over the prevailing cash scarcity has increased over the week as more banks resorted to rationing cash withdrawals while point-of-sale operators, known as POS operators, hiked transaction fees by 100%. Meanwhile, the Central Bank of Nigeria, in a move aimed at ameliorating the situation, suspended charges for cash withdrawals above the regulatory limits of 500,000 naira for individuals and 3 million naira for corporate account holders. The CBN said the suspension of the charges would last April 30th next year. Findings indicated that there has been a short supply of cash for the banks from the Apex Bank, prompting the banks to reduce the amount disbursed both via the ATMs and over the counter. Now, like the beginning of the year, when Nigerians faced biting cash scarcity, banks now prioritize customers holding accounts with them while rationing available cash to make it get to as many customers as possible. While some still maintain the 100,000 naira daily withdrawal limits in tranches of 20,000 naira through ATMs, others have since reduced the amount dispensed through the ATM. Now, still talking about cash scarcity, the Central Bank of Nigeria has attributed the reported cases of cash scarcity in some major cities across the country to the hoarding of banknotes by some persons it didn't identify. But the Apex Bank, however, assured that it is addressing the problem. The bank's acting director in charge of corporate communications, Mrs. Hakama Sidi Ali, in a chat with newsmen in Abuja over the week, said the CBN was monitoring the situation and released sufficient cash for its branches across the country to onward distribution to deposit money banks. Giving further clarification on the cases of hoarding, she explained that currency in circulation was, as of February 2023, was about 1 trillion naira, while that figure had risen to 3.4 trillion naira as at 2 days ago. She empathized with Nigerians over their previous and correct experiences, but insisted that the CBN had adequate cash to meet the day-to-day transaction needs of Nigerians. Now, the acting director therefore appealed to Nigerians to be patient while the CBN does the needful to ensure the availability of cash, particularly during the Yuletide and beyond. And moving on, in a bid to sanitize the electronic call-up system, which has been immersed in the controversy, the leadership of the Nigerian Ports Authority has commenced moves to penalize truck drivers involved in malpractices in the call-up system. The memo, dated December 7, 2023, and signed by the Apapa Airport Manager, Mr. Charles Okaha, said that a total of 9 trucks were identified to have been in the resale of the tickets, adding that the management of the Truck Transit Parks Limited would disable the trucks culpable in matter in the system. In the later, one of the illegal tickets was diverted from ENL Consortium to APM Terminal, while all 5 tickets involved were also diverted from Eco Support Service to APM Terminal, as another 3 illegal tickets were also diverted within APM Terminal. Now let's take a look at market capitalization and how trading activities on the Nigerian Exchange Limited moderated over the week, even as the investors gained 130 billion naira at the close of trading. Both the all-share index and the market capitalization appreciated by a 0.33% to close at 71,907.26 basis points and 39.348 trillion naira respectively, which marked a consecutive day of positive trading on the local bourse. The year-to-date gain of the ASI rose to 40.30%. Even as the market continued to trend positively, the volume of traded stocks and the number of deals declined by 14.86% and 7.32% respectively to close at 6,498 deals and 319 million units. Meanwhile, the total traded value for the day appreciated by 52.54% to 5.88 billion naira from 3.85 billion naira earlier this week. The sectoral performance revealed a bearish trend as 3 out of 5 stocks closed in the red zone. NGS Insurance, NGS Oil and Gas, and NGS Industrial Goods indexes declined by 0.49%, 1.03%, and 0.01% respectively. And on electricity, after the power grid collapsed for the second time this year, the federal government has disclosed that as part of the overall reform of the sector, the Transmission Company of Nigeria would be unbundled into 2 distinct entities. The government admitted that TCN, which is responsible for managing the national power grid, as well as delivering bulk electricity distribution companies and eligible customers, has been identified as the weakest segment in the Nigerian electricity supply industry. Speaking in Abuja over the week at the opening of a ministerial retreat organized by the Federal Ministry of Power, the Minister of Power, Chief Adebayo Adelabu, said TCN would be restructured into becoming the independent system operator, IOS, and the transmission service provider. He observed that the goals of the reforms introduced by the government to improve power supply have largely remained unmet, urging stakeholders and operators to renew their efforts to ensure that these were achieved. Still on the electric sector, now the Nigerian Labour Congress has kicked against the proposed plans by the federal government to restructure the Transmission Company of Nigeria. In a communique signed by the president of NLC, Joe Ajaero, he stated that the proposed privatization plan of TCN would portend great danger to the power sector and hold great fear and trepidation for major stakeholders within the sector. Ajaero said the intended power sector policies would create the same mistakes past administrations made, and it would create deeper consequences if power sector policies were not reversed by the federal government. Now, recall that it was earlier reported that the federal government, through the Bureau of Public Enterprises, announced plans to sell off 40% shares of the government in electricity distribution companies on the capital market in 2024. Similarly, the government also noted that it was unbundling the TCN in line with the Electricity Act. And in the oil sector, Mele Kyari, the Chief Executive Officer of the Nigerian National Petroleum Company Limited, has said that 1.785 million barrels of oil per day in 2024 is achievable for Nigeria. This was made known in a statement signed by Olufemi Sonoye, the Chief Corporate Communications Officer of the NNPC. According to the statement, Kyari told the Senate Committee on Finance that the projections on crude oil production and price benchmark for 2024 budget were realistic and realizable. The latest data by the Nigerian Upstream Petroleum Regulatory Commission revealed that the crude oil, blended and unblended and condensate output fell to 1.47 million barrels per day in November, indicating a back-to-back drop in production levels since October. He expressed optimism that though there were challenges such as security and force majeure, the measures being deployed by the federal government would be able to take care of them to guarantee the projected level of production. And net asset value of mutual funds rose by 47% year-on-year to 2.019 trillion, the highest in 12 years, driven by investors' quest for high yields amidst the prevailing high interest rates regime. Now, findings from the report released by the Securities and Exchange Commission showed that the total net asset value of the mutual funds year-on-year rose by 653 million or 47.8% to 2.019 trillion naira on November 17, 2023 from 1.366 trillion naira in November 18, 2022. Now, the asset under management at 2.019 trillion naira is the highest since 2011 when the Security and Exchange Commission started publishing the data. Meanwhile, the Central Bank of Nigeria has been raising the monetary policy rate, which is the benchmark interest rate for borrowing following the continuous rise in inflation. This high interest rate favors the mutual funds investors. Well, that's how much we can take on business this week today. My name is Chinwe Nwokocha, and from all of us here at Viewer Television, we wish you Merry Christmas and have a prosperous New Year ahead. Bye for now.